Good evening and welcome to TVB News. The Audit Commission has slammed the Transport Department's manpower management, blaming it for long queues at licensing offices.
The public spending watchdog says the department should also promote the use of e-services in driving or vehicle license renewals. Christy Khan reports.
A review conducted by the Audit Commission last year found the Transport Department's licensing office in Chancellor had a longer queuing time and more congested environment than its other three licensing offices. The Chancellor office was full of visitors when its walk-in counter services resumed last week. The queuing time was also long at the Kuntong office. This man said he had waited there for a few hours. But this man had earlier made an online appointment, and it took him just around 10 minutes to complete the process. The Audit Commission suggested the Transport Department should monitor the workloads of its 4 licensing offices and deploy staff members in a more flexible manner. In addition, the watchdog said the department should critically review its manpower requirements. From 2019 to 2020, the number of applications handled by the department dropped to around 3 million, a 20% decline from the previous year. The department, however, recruited 24% more staff members, saying it needed to cope with the increase in applications received through non-counter means, such as those submitted by post, through drop boxes, and online. The Commission also said the department should promote the use of e-services for the renewal of driving and vehicle licenses. An earlier survey found more than 30% of respondents said they didn't know there is an online application channel for renewing the licenses. Furthermore, the Commission suggested the Transport Department should reconsider setting up a queue ticketing system in order to reduce the waiting time. Christy Khan, TVB News.
Well, the Audit Commission also slammed the Highways Department for its frequent delays and cost overruns. Among the 20 maintenance projects randomly reviewed by the Audit Commission, there were cost overruns in 6 of them, with some final spending doubling the estimated costs. There was an average 6-month delay in the completion of 4 projects. The report also noted that there are over 770 footpaths that require inspections every 7 days or every month, but the report found 2% of those footpaths were not inspected at the required frequency. Well, Hong Kong recorded 430 new COVID infections today and 8 additional deaths. The results from rapid tests and PCR tests each take up half of the latest cases. With around 600 schools returning to in-person classes, 7 more students and 1 more teaching staff member tested positive. With the case count returning to the 400-plus level, health authorities say the rebound is inevitable, given the resumption of schools and relaxation of social distancing measures. Meanwhile, 8 more COVID patients died. And with the easing of the pandemic, the hospital run by the Chinese University of Hong Kong will revert the isolation wards for COVID patients back to general outpatient wards.
The mainland reported more than 14,200 new COVID cases today. Shanghai remains the hardest hit with over 13,000 new infections. 48 more COVID patients died. This as the megacity tested more than 51 million nucleic acid samples over the past 5 days. Authorities say as the positive detection rate has gradually declined, people in districts with no recent cases will be allowed to carry out activities in limited areas. Continuing the zero COVID approach, authorities will undertake the district-by-district screening efforts on residents using both PCR and rapid antigen tests until Saturday.
In other news tonight, European gas prices have spiked by up to 24% after Russian energy giant Gazprom halted gas supplies to Bulgaria and Poland. The company says it's suspending deliveries, that is, because the two countries failed to pay for gas in rubles. It's the Kremlin's toughest response so far to crippling sanctions from the West over the Ukraine conflict. The spike comes even as the weather turns warmer in Europe, lessening the demand for natural gas for heating homes and businesses. The head of the Paris-based International Energy Agency says Gazprom's move will only accelerate European efforts to move away from Russian energy supplies.
Russian forces are continuing to concentrate attacks on eastern Ukraine as Ukraine claims rocket attacks have hit more residential areas.
In neighboring Moldova, there are growing concerns that Moscow is preparing to make its move into a separatist-held region. Ukrainian forces say Russia continues to shell small villages on the front line in the Donbas region in what Ukrainians claim is indiscriminate targeting of civilian areas. As a soldier pointed towards a farm that had already been shelled, another shell, apparently from Russian forces, was heard in the distance. After weeks of heavy fighting in the area, soldiers told Britain's Sky News they managed to evacuate everyone, including those who didn't want to leave. This Ukrainian medic says most of the Russian soldiers don't understand what they're doing in the region. As the battle lines are drawn in the east, more explosions rock the Moldovan region of Transnistria. No claims of responsibility, but Ukraine blames Russia. The region of less than 500,000 people has been under the control of separatist authorities since 1992. Experts say recent bombings there could be a sign of the Kremlin's further territorial ambitions.
If Russia is successful in Ukraine, it's not going to be the end of the story. The appetite grows, as the campaign progresses. So Ukraine is the beginning. If Russia succeeds in Ukraine, Moldova will be next on the menu.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the Kremlin wants not just to seize territory in Ukraine, but to dismember the entire center and east of Europe. Zelensky on Tuesday also welcomed the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency to Kyiv. Weeks earlier, Russian troops had seized control of the defunct Chernobyl nuclear power plant.
It is visible that there is damage, and we are assessing that because our job is to give precise information.
The IAEA has agreed with Ukraine to help repair the site, which is now back in Ukrainian hands. Russian forces still hold another nuclear power plant in southern Ukraine, where fighting nearby last month damaged the plant's training facility.
UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres and Russian President Vladimir Putin met one-on-one Tuesday for the first time since Moscow launched its invasion of Ukraine. The pair have reportedly agreed in principle to arrange evacuations of Ukrainian civilians from a steel plant in the besieged city of Mariupol.
Meanwhile, during a visit to an American air base in Germany, the U.S. Defense Secretary said the conflict has already weakened Russia's military capability. Daniel Rowell tells us more.
The talks between UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres and Russian President Vladimir Putin lasted almost 2 hours. The pair sat at opposite ends of a long white table in the Kremlin as they discussed the conflict in Ukraine. Guterres slammed Russia's military action in Ukraine, calling it a flagrant violation of the country's territorial integrity. He urged Moscow to allow the evacuation of civilians trapped at a steel mill in the war-battered city of Mariupol. The Azovstal site has been almost completely destroyed by Russian military attacks. It is essentially the last pocket of organized Ukrainian resistance in Mariupol. An estimated 2,000 soldiers and 1,000 civilians are believed to be holed up beneath the wrecked complex. Putin told Guterres Russian troops have offered humanitarian corridors to civilians looking to depart the plant. He claimed Ukrainian fighters at the plant were using civilians as human shields and not permitting them to leave. Still, the UN said Guterres and Putin agreed in principle that the United Nations and the International Committee of the Red Cross should be involved in the evacuation of civilians from the plant. The UN Humanitarian Office and the Russian Defense Ministry will now reportedly discuss the matter further. Following the talks with Putin, Guterres flew to Warsaw to meet with Polish President Andrzej Duda. The UN chief is due in Kyiv on Thursday for dialogue with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Elsewhere, after meeting allies at the American Ramstein Air Base in Germany, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said the war in Ukraine has already weakened Russia's military capability.
Land forces have been attrited in a very significant way. Casualties are pretty substantial. They've lost a lot of equipment. They've used a lot of precision-guided munitions. They've lost a major surface combatant. And so they are, in fact, in terms of military capability, weaker than when it started.
Daniel Rowell, TVB News.
Chinese drone company DJI Technology has temporarily suspended business activity in Russia and Ukraine in a bid to prevent the use of its drones in combat. This comes after Ukraine's Vice Prime Minister Mikhailo Fedorov wrote an open letter to the company asking it to block sales of its drones in Russia. He claimed Russian troops were using DJI products in Ukraine in order to navigate their missiles to kill civilians. The aeroscope system installed in DJI drones allows the detection and monitoring of other drones and their operators in the vicinity through the use of special receivers. DJI has long maintained that its products are intended for civilian use. The company added it will never accept any use of its products to cause harm.
Welcome back to TVB News. A woman suicide bomber who killed 3 Chinese teachers in Pakistan yesterday was a teacher and a mother of 2 who carried out the attack on behalf of separatist insurgents. A Pakistani official said today the 30-year-old woman detonated an explosive outside Karachi University's Confucius Institute. The blast killed the teachers and a Pakistani driver in a minivan. The Baloch Liberation Army, or BLA, said the woman volunteered for the attack targeting China, whose investment projects in Balochistan they oppose. In an email, the BLA warned China to immediately halt its exploitation projects, or future attacks will be even worse. Balochistan and its deep water port are a major link in China's Belt and Road network of infrastructure and energy projects. The foreign ministry in Beijing condemned the attack and demanded that Pakistan punish the perpetrators and prevent further attacks.
A court in military-ruled Myanmar has convicted the country's former leader, Aung San Suu Kyi, of corruption and sentenced her to 5 years in prison. In the first of several corruption cases against her, Suu Kyi's trial in the capital, Naypyidaw, today was closed to the media, diplomats, and spectators. Her lawyers are barred from speaking to the press. Suu Kyi, who was ousted by an army takeover last year, denied the allegation that she had accepted gold and other bribes from a top political colleague. She has already been sentenced to 6 years imprisonment in other cases and faces 10 more corruption charges. Her supporters and independent legal experts say the trials are a sham in a bid to discredit the former civilian leader and legitimize the military's seizure of power.
Back locally, the Chinese University of Hong Kong has announced the reappointment of Professor Rocky Tuan as its vice-chancellor. This follows a meeting of the university's council yesterday. Tuan's new 3-year term will commence on January 1st, 2024. Tuan said in the statement that he is humbled by the reappointment. He added that he will work with the university to ensure it will continue to excel in research, education and innovation. Tuan first took up the position of vice-chancellor of CUHK in 2018.
The Deputy Commissioner of Police, Oscar Kwok, will take leave starting tomorrow ahead of retirement.
He said the police force cannot do everything on their own in the task of maintaining the relationship between officers and the people.
Looking back at his 32 years of service in the police force, Oscar Kwok began his career mainly performing investigative duties.
The police identity is basically defined me as a person. My career here has given me so many opportunities to learn and to grow as a person. And I think in many cases, have given me the opportunity to actually maximize my potential, and in many areas to make a difference.
In 2019, Kwok was promoted to Deputy Police Commissioner, and he helped to manage the force during the anti-government protests. He admitted the protests have affected the relationship between the police and the people of Hong Kong. But Kwok said the police force should not be the only party to help maintain this relationship.
Hong Kong has gone wrong. All right, as a society, generations of people have gone wrong by accepting or falling prey to the propaganda work of foreign forces of disorder. We are simply a reflection of the society. Our members are picked from the society. We are the same people who are bred and who are educated in Hong Kong.
He added police officers possess certain qualities which make them stand out from perhaps other civil servants.
The central government has seen what a few officers with police background have been able to do, and found themselves in a position to offer even more trust in these people to undertake more important responsibilities. It was ingrained in our head that it is a matter of duty for us to do our utmost to protect people, to save life and property, and to keep the peace.
Starting tomorrow, Chow Yat Ming will succeed Kwok and take up his role as Deputy Commissioner of Police. In-person meetings resumed in the Legislative Council today. LegCo meetings were conducted online for more than 2 months because of the fifth wave of the pandemic. In the chamber today, 60 lawmakers waited for their turn to deliver their speech over the appropriations bill. The budget earmarked over $90 billion for the Hospital Authority, $9 billion more than last year, but lawmaker Dominic Lee said the sum actually included $7.5 billion in additional funding for anti-epidemic work. He slammed the government for not being as generous as it seems. Others suggest the city reopen its borders with foreign countries and Macau. Otherwise, they said Hong Kong would lose more talent and economic opportunities. That's the news. Thanks for watching.
Good night.